Hello folks, welcome to The Cut. I'm Craig Shelton. I am your host right here every week on UTN 43.8. The Cut. Sports Talk is what we do on this show. Joining me in the studio today is Dr. Kenyatta Cavill. Doctor, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well.
Tell the folks a little bit about what it is you do.
Yes, I'm a full-time professor at Texas Southern University. I talk about sports studies.
No doubt. And my man Will Laws, folks, the most dangerous man in college football recruiting. He's also a member of HoustonMediaWatch.com. The acronym is HMW. I encourage you folks to go to the blog and check us out. That's HoustonMediaWatch.com. Today is a day for me that kind of makes me question the common sense of how football teams are ran, folks. And I'll tell you where I'm coming from with this. The New York Jets have made it official. They hired John Izek. He's a new Jets GM. He joins the Jets after a stint where he was the vice president of football operations with the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the Jets guys have a plethora of issues. You're talking about a team with salary cap figures that are busting out the seams, depleted roster, a turnover-prone quarterback, a quarterback that's not really a quarterback. And then you've got this perception around the league and in the media and with fans in general of just a franchise that's just kind of a clown act, a clown show. This should not be happening in the media capital of the world, especially when you're playing in the shadows of a Giant franchise and you're sharing a brand new, beautiful stadium with the Giants. Mm-hmm. The difference is the Giants are winning the Super Bowls every few years, and you're the Jets. You're the JETS Jets. So what we do here on the show, folks, is we gather topics. We take them to the social media scene, Facebook and Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Craig Shelton HMW. That's Craig Shelton HMW on Twitter. On Facebook, you can follow me at Craig HMW Shelton. If you hear any comments on the show that you agree with or you're in disagreement with, and you don't do Facebook, and you don't do Twitter, and you just want to do the old-fashioned email, you can email me at HoustonMediaWatch@yahoo.com, and we appreciate the comments and your participation in the show. So what I'll do is I'll start with you, Dr. Cavill. Now, John Izek comes in as the GM of the Jets. Yeah. Now, when you think about Rex Ryan, he's a lovable guy. You know, he's a regular guy. You can relate to Rex Ryan. You know, he's the type of guy, he's in love with his wife. He's in love with his wife's feet. You know, Rex is kind of out there a little bit.
The teddy bear.
The teddy bear. But we relate to Rex Ryan. He's a kind of a player's coach in that ilk of a coach profile-wise. But when you think about John Izek coming into the scene with the Jets, 52-year-old guy, educated at Dartmouth. He's an intellectual.
Ivy League.
He's an intellectual. I know what it's like. I got a sister that's a Princeton grad.
There it is.
I feel completely ignorant every time I have a conversation with her. But I'll say this. I got to get you guys' thought on this. Yes. Is this a fit? Can a Rex Ryan fit with a guy that's going to manage things with a Ivy League mindset?
No, it won't fit. Let's get straight to the chase. As you said, intellectual thought processes and somebody that wants to joke at the press conferences and talk.
Thank you, Craig. Here's some comments on Twitter about the Jets. At Fred Fowler, ESPN Radio, Yahoo Radio says, Colts and Cowboys have ton of cap space, and besides, that's just what Jerry Jones does. At BAX Football Guru, at the cost of breaking the bank, it's more of a case of who would want to spend the money. I could see the Raiders, AFC, or Saints, NFC. Raiders certainly have a need, and this is a totally different regimen under GM Reggie McKenzie, not like the past. McKenzie has good pedigree coming from Green Bay, who has always done it right, especially during the free agency era. I'm Alicia Stewart, and this is UTN's The Cut.
Thank you, Alicia. We appreciate that. Folks, when we come back from this break, we will talk about some action I saw on Twitter, a big debate that went on between Akeem Olajuwon's legacy and Bill Russell when The Cut comes back. All right, folks, welcome back to the show. I'm Craig Shelton. It's The Cut. Dr. Kenyatta Cavill is still in studio, blessing us with his skill set tonight, Doctor. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Richard Walker from HMW, as usual, in studio doing his thing, folks. We really, really want you to be a part of what we do on The Cut and right here on UTN. We want you to participate. And how do you do that? Just follow me on Twitter at Craig Shelton HMW. Craig Shelton HMW on Twitter. And on Facebook is Craig HMW Shelton. You can be a part of the show. Give us your comments, questions, and we will talk about them right here on the show. We're the only show that does that, all right? So make sure you be a part of what we're doing here at UTN. Guys, I saw an interesting topic come up on Twitter, and I did everything I could to keep it going. And you know, with the All-Star game coming up, you know, folks are kind of trying to feel up basketball brothers, you know, if for lack of a better word. Well, there was a little debate going on about Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon, former player for the Houston Rockets, who had a brief stint with Toronto. I know Rocket fans can't stand to hear that. And former Boston Celtic, Bill Russell, who is a Morgan Freeman lookalike, by the way, no doubt. But it wasn't about who was the greatest player overall. It was about who was the better defensive player, and I thought that was an interesting question. So I put it out there and got a little bit further out there on Facebook and on Twitter, and I'll give you my take on it. My take on it is this: I feel that Bill Russell, obviously, you know, 11 championships. Hakeem Olajuwon with 2 championships. Mm-hmm. He went to 3 finals, won 2. So there's no comparison if you're going to use that argument. But if you use that argument, the greatest player you know, to a man, everybody says Michael Jordan is the greatest ever.
Absolutely.
Well, he's got 6 rings. Mm-hmm. Russell has 11.
Ori got 7.
Ori has 7. Is Ori better than Jordan? Is Russell twice as good as Jordan? So I don't buy that theory no more than I buy Phil Jackson is the greatest NBA coach of all time. You know, he may have the most championships.
Absolutely.
But you know, go coach the Cavaliers to a championship. Show me how great you are.
Yeah.
But I believe that Hakeem Olajuwon was the greatest defensive center we've ever seen, and I'll tell you why. It's not the fact that he did what a great center should do. A great center should what? Rebound. Mm-hmm. Defensive rebounds. He also got pretty good on offensive boards. Mm-hmm. He should block shots, right? He was the greatest at that ever, right?
Yes.
So he's supposed to do that. Mm-hmm. Russell Hakeem was a good one-on-one defender, correct?
That's right.
Hakeem was a good help defender.
Had very good feet movement from when he played soccer.
Right. Now, what do we not expect centers to do that Hakeem did? He was able to defend smaller players on the perimeter. Mm-hmm. He was the only center I've ever seen that was able to go out on the perimeter and steal the ball from a guard. Mm-hmm. Who will forget Hakeem Olajuwon stealing the ball back-to-back in the championship against the Boston Celtics and taking it down court to finish? Mm-hmm. So, unless someone can come up with another center that played defense, that could play a defensive game that extended to the perimeter. I'm not talking about some big that was a 3-point deep shooter where he could just run out and stand in his face. How about that Starks shot from the corner in the finals that Hakeem went over and blocked?
Saved the championship for him, basically.
So, in my opinion, I know Bill Russell was great. His legacy is what it is. I have no reason to understand why his hair and his facial hair looks the way it does. I don't understand that about Al Sharpton either while we at it. But it doesn't diminish what he did on the basketball court. Mm-hmm. But folks, I tell you, Hakeem Olajuwon's game is transcendent. had he played basketball in the era that Wilt played and Bill Russell played, history would say something different. Because just like we've never, including Michael Jordan, seen a freak like LeBron James that can defend 5 positions,
Right.
5.
All 5.
Just like we've never seen anyone like Magic Johnson that can play 5 positions at an all-star level. Folks, we've never seen a son that could do what Hakeem Olajuwon could do defensively. Doc.
That's all true. But Boston, I'm going to go with the thoughtplex of Bill Russell. I know he didn't get out there on the sideline, and I know y'all going to jump at me, but I got to go with Bill Russell.
Say what you say.
Oh, Doc.
I'm going with Bill Russell.
Doc, come on.
But if you agree with the Hakeem argument,
I do agree with
well
you.
then how was Russell better? And what part of his
I
game
need
was
to
he
take notes for
better?
this.
Well, I would tell you, this is what I like the fact. When we said about the block shots, but I also say that he could defend all 5 players that Russell could. We don't go back and like our memory fades us sometimes, but he could guard all 5 of them.
Well, how come when guys talk about the great Bill Russell and how he played the game, I never hear them talk about him defending on the perimeter, him being a guy that got steals?
I just read the transcript of what you said, Doc.
You know,
None of it makes sense, unfortunately.
Last week in Invisible Girl, and this week in Invisible Transcript.
Let's be real about it. I mean, kind of what you spoke about earlier. That era, who else did he have that was a legitimate threat besides Wilt? I probably would have been a center in the 50s in the NBA.
You would
not
have.
go
I would have been a
so
center. I'm 6'6". I probably would have been a center in the NBA back then. Then he didn't have nearly the type of talent that Hakeem had to face. I mean, Hakeem Olajuwon dominated in the golden age of centers. Dave Robinson, Patrick Ewing, Shaquille O'Neal, the end of Abdul-Jabbar's career.
Even the second tier level of
I agree with all that. I agree with all
had
that.
mid-level guys like Alonzo Mourning that would have been dominant back then.
I agree with all that. But
So
I
how
still,
is
I'm
Bill
going
Russell?
with
Help me out.
But give me some basketball X and O. Don't give me emotional old school responses. Put that Thunderbird up, man. We
I'm reading that. I still got
give me
some
some rock. Come on to the 2000s, man.
Well, as I said, I think he could guard. I mean, we've seen that he could guard all 5 positions. Now, I will grant that he couldn't guard the guard position as well as a large one. I'm not going to debate that. I'm throw that. But I'm saying just from a guy that could guard all 5 of those. I think in terms of what he did on the defensive side, in terms of turning
You're
the ball
finding it
over.
really difficult to do this. This is really difficult, isn't it? You're starting to
Well, I'm
feel
gonna go-
foolish, Doc. Let me see what you guys think about this. I was tweeted by a guy, Big Toro on Twitter. Big Toro asked me had I read the Simmons book of basketball. Now, what he says Simmons does is he created a stat called stocks, which was a combination of steals plus blocks to explain Hakeem Olajuwon's defensive greatness. I'm quoting his tweet here. He says it's 700 pages of what he calls basketball porn, including a section where he makes the Hall of Fame into a pyramid. This is for the serious basketball fans. Simmons ranked the centers. Number 1, he ranked Russell. Number 2, Kareem. Number 3, Wilt. Number 4, Hakeem. Number 5, Moses, 2 former Rockets back-to-back. And number 6, Shaq. Those were his great centers.
Wow.
I'll get you guys' thought on that.
Who was number 1?
Number 1, he had Bill Russell, which, you know, if Bill Russell's not better than the Dream, if he's not better than the Dream defensively, he's not even in his league offensively. I think
True.
the list is flawed, but I won't go there. Your thoughts, though?
As the argument I tried to make in terms of, as we say, defense, even though sometimes people don't see it, I'm talking about how he would get on the rebound and start the fast break for his team.
So you agree Russell should be?
No, I'm not going to agree. I can't.
So
have
who would be
Russell
number
at
1 for you?
I'm gonna do Wilt.
Who would be number 2 after Wilt? Richard, what do you say?
I've got Wilt.
Is Wilt your number
No,
1?
I actually had Hakeem number 1.
Yeah, Dream's my number 1.
Dream's my number 1.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, let me do this extemporaneously. All right, I'm gonna say.
Give me more. Why?
I'm gonna say Dream because he had the most complete game out of all of these guys, and he made his free throws. Goodbye, Shaq.
I like that.
Okay, I'll say.
And Wilt too.
I'll say Wilt number 2. I'll say Kareem number 3, and I'll say Russell number 4, Moses number 5, Shaq 6.
You put Moses up, Shaq?
Yes, I definitely have to put Moses over Shaq. Man,
Oh.
Moses Malone was an outstanding offensive rebounder.
No, he
could
was.
get you for 30 points, 20 rebounds, and he was going to make his free throws. Shaq?
Yeah, he got it. I agree with you.
I cannot rate
deducted a
Shaq
few
above
points for his,
these great guys.
I deducted a few points for the last few years of his career.
Who?
Moses.
Oh, I thought you were going to do it because his use of the English language.
I'm
about to say that don't apply.
You got to do it for the O'Neal too, then.
Well, I mean, Shaq was still a factor.
Now, the all-time leading scorer,
he wasn't dominant, but he was still a factor.
Yeah, I got Kareem 3. Yeah, I got Kareem 3.
I would agree with that.
All-time leading scorer, but look how long he played. Man.
And you played with Magic.
47,000
You
years.
played with Magic. I don't care who you are. I mean, Magic made Kurt Rambis shine every now and then.
Good job, guys. Hey, we'll go ahead and take this one to the social media scene and see what they had to say on Facebook and Twitter with our social media correspondent, Alicia Stewart. Alicia?
Thank you, Craig. Here's some interesting comments on Twitter about the Dream versus Bill Russell. At David Nuno, ABC 13 Sports, Dream was the best. He had offensive moves and a mean streak. And he got shot blocks. Dream's one-on-one defense and help defense changed the center position. No one is close. At Greg KOCH1 Sports Talk 790, different era, but I take Dream over anyone. Took every big to school. At Jeff in Westbury writes for Bleacher Report, I second that emotion on the Dream, but Bill Russell's impact on the game is unique. Russell was ultimately surpassed by Wilt Chamberlain on both ends of court. At Sports MT, Russell beat up people who tried to post up on him. Dream was quick, interrupting passing lanes, smart elevation, Craig. And on Facebook, Jeff Strain, hard to judge really because it was a different time and era. Who did Bill have to guard on the perimeter? And I'd have loved to see Hakeem go against Wilt on the regular. So I'm going to have to give this one an incomplete for lack of evidence one way or another. Lidge Brisby, Dream all the way. The media hate to give him his credit. Okay, football, Earl Campbell. Kerry Palm, Hakeem was definitely the best all-around player. I think the players were great at Russell's time, but when Dream played, the athletes were far superior than then. And for him to put up the def number he didn't was unbelievable. Kashona Miskaf Alfred, Hakeem, I think he was the best center of all time and defensive player. Tillman at Green Jr., there can only be one. Bill set the bar. Dream made it impossible to be reached. No one else plays the position like he did. I'm Alicia Stewart, and this is UTN's The Cut.
Hey, thank you, Alicia. We appreciate that. And, folks, we're going to run to a break right here on The Cut, but when we come back, we'll talk about the NBA All-Star snubs for 2013 right here on The Cut. Welcome back to the show. I'm Craig Shelton. This is The Cut. We're right here on UTN, third segment of the show. Angelo Lawford from HMW, Richard Walker from HMW. That's HoustonMediaWatch.com. That's the blog that we all write for. Go check us out. Go ahead, Angelo. Why don't you give the folks your Twitter handle?
Yes. My Twitter handle is @thelaw_creeps.
Richard?
My Twitter handle is @HMWBigWalker.
And before we end this segment, they will both tell you how to get with them on Facebook as well. We encourage you folks to follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, and become a part of what we're doing here on UTN, on The Cut. This show is not about us. It's all about you folks on the social media. We love to get involved with you guys and hear what you have to say. We want to know what you think, and we make it a part of the format here on the show. Nobody else is doing that, so take advantage of it. Guys, let's show them how we do it.
Okay.
All right. The NBA All-Star Game is coming up. The 62nd NBA All-Star Game is coming up on the 17th in Houston, Texas. The reserves were announced, and I'll give you the East reserves. Kyrie Irving with Cleveland. Holiday with the Sixers, Luol Deng with the Bulls, Joakim Noah with the Bulls, interesting, and I'll tell you why that's interesting. Chris Bosh with the Heat, Tyson Chandler Knicks, Paul George of the Pacers. The West reserves are Tim Duncan with the Spurs, Marcus Aldridge with the Blazers, James Harden with the Houston Rockets, David Lee with the Warriors, Tony Parker with the Spurs, Zach Randolph in Memphis, and Russell Westbrook of the Thunder. Now, when I gave you the East reserve, guys, I mentioned Joakim Noah, and I said that I would get back to him. But the reason why I get back to Joakim Noah is you can make an argument, a real easy argument, that the biggest snub on the East side was Brook Lopez of Brooklyn. I mean, here's a guy who is a rare breed in the NBA these days because he's a scoring five. Well, we can use a scoring five around this town. We got a pretty good defensive and rebounding center down here in Houston when we take the show at. But there's not a lot of offensive fives in the league that can get you 20 and close to 10. The guy's having a good year. And then let's jump over to the West. Another kid that folks probably, at first glance, you would say probably was the biggest snub. I know with the national media today, he was getting the most run, and I'm talking about Stephen Curry. Look, no argument about Curry's skill set.
No.
Exquisite guard. I mean, this guy's excellent. Can shoot three, shooting at a 45% clip from three-point range, I believe, and averaging 6.6 assists a game or so. They're doing this without Andrew Bogut, having a good year in Golden State. But on the surface, you want to go with him. I think people have just a real issue with seeing Brook Lopez and All-Star in the same sentence. Andrew, I'll start with you and get your thoughts.
Well, the problem for me is the reserves are voted for by coaches, I believe, correct?
By the coaches?
Yes. So I think the problem initially is with the fan voting, because there are some people on the starting five that I wouldn't have voted for myself, like a Kevin Garnett or somebody like that.
You would have voted Brook Lopez in front of Kevin Garnett?
Yeah, well, I could do that. And one reason why I see that Noah's on there is because if you look at Chicago's record, minus a Derrick Rose, I think you do have to give some consideration for Noah, or to Noah for that. So I think initially it just doesn't feel right, but more for me because of the starting five and not the reserve.
It doesn't feel right at 18.6 points a game, 7.4 rebounds, and shooting 52% from the field.
No. And I agree with that. And like I say, so for me it's more about the starters because the coaches try to make it right. But I think the if you somehow sort of conform or change the way that fans vote, I think it starts there, and maybe it will be
so
more
balanced.
balanced.
So you're really a bigger issue. It's more about the way the whole thing comes together. Richard, I'll get your thoughts.
I think it's just the whole perception of the All-Star process to begin with, because my opinion is the All-Star selection should be a snapshot of where you are now compared to where you are at the beginning of the season. Let's not forget, this guy was shopped around. This guy was, for all intents and purposes, just a piece that would have been chipped in the Dwight Howard trade had that taken place. He was an afterthought. For him to take his game to that level, to the point where he literally is the heart and soul of the Brooklyn Nets, because Deron Williams has not been the guy he usually is. You know, I think that's the indication of someone going to an All-Star level where day in, day out, this guy's delivering. He's the guy that, his success or failure determines whether or not they win or lose ball game. That's an All-Star.
Over there on the western side, Stephen Curry is taking over things in Golden State. I mean, he's been a team leader, as I said, 6.6 assists per game, 45.1 from three-point range. Anytime you put up those type of numbers and you add that intangible, that intangible that can't be coached, Dwight Howard of the leadership, and I'm serious, it can't be coached. You may be able to cultivate it if it's there.
Right. You
can cultivate it, but you can't coach it into a guy. I just think that this kid has just shown that he's a very, very special player. We look at the Eastern roster all together. Dwayne Wade, these are the starters. Dwayne Wade, Rajon Rondo. How about that backcourt? Then you got point forward LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and the Cheerios, and Kevin Garnett. And, when I think about Angelo's comments in regard to Kevin Garnett, it's hard not to vote Kevin Garnett for me into the All-Star starting lineup over Brook Lopez, because even though Garnett may be on cruise control right now, we know what Kevin Garnett is. We know Kevin Garnett is a basketball institution. Kevin Garnett spurred rule changes in basketball in regard to how you were going to be paid. Right. And I know it's all about what you do on the floor, But I put myself in a position as one of the voters or one of the coaches that are choosing. I just don't see any way that I would be able to take a guy like Brook Lopez. This is where it got interesting for me. Had Brook Lopez and Stephen Curry both been a part of the Eastern or Western Conference, and I had to choose between those two guys as my last vote guy to add to either side, that's where it would have gotten interesting for me. But if I'm going to take one over the other, I think the NBA has become a guard league. Clearly, it's a guard league. So I think there's more value on the rare commodity of the scoring five. And so therefore, I think when you got a guy like that fits the bill, and for entertainment purposes, is able to probably get up and down the floor and be on the receiving end of some of those great passes from these guards in an all-star present game. I just think that he's a good choice. I'll finish off the East. Drew Holiday, Chris Bosh, Paul George, Tyson Chandler, Joakim Noah, Drew Dane, and Kyrie Irving. Now on the West, how about this starting lineup? Chris Paul, Kobe Bean Bryant, Kevin Thunder Durant, Blake Thunder Dunk Griffin, and Dwight Howard. Let me change the pace just a little bit. We only have a couple minutes left here in this segment. And Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, LaMarcus Aldridge, David Lee, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden, and Zach Randolph rounded out. So the All-Star game will be played in Houston here in a couple weeks, and we'll see how that comes out. I'm sure it'll be a great entertainment. I got to get on the Lakers. That's an abomination of basketball that's going on in LA. Real quick, I want to get you guys thoughts. Do the Lakers go ahead and move Dwight Howard? They're not going to move Kobe. So do they go ahead and move Dwight Howard and live to fight another day? Because you can get a good King's ransom for the guy. Let's just face it.
Can you? At this point, he's injured. And then on top of that, clearly his attitude is somewhat. So I don't know if you would get last year. You could have gotten a lot more for Dwight Howard than what you can get for it from.
How many other Dwight Howards are here?
I mean, he's still the best center in basketball.
Yeah,
I
by accident, I guess. So, but you have to question if the effort's there.
But if the effort's not there, and he's better than everybody, and the effort is not even there, he's still a 2010 man.
80%.
They don't grow on trees.
And 80% motivated Dwight Howard's better than 90% of the guys.
Now, you may not want him on your franchise. You may want him on your franchise. I can understand that argument either way. You know what I mean? But I disagree that that's not going to be a market for Dwight Howard. It's going to be a huge market for Dwight Howard in a max dollar market. Appreciate it, guys. Good job. We'll go ahead and go to the Twitterverse and to Facebook to see what they had to say. We'll go to our social media correspondent, Alicia Stewart.
Thank you, Craig. Here's some comments on Twitter about the All-Star snubs. Twitter at RLG. I gotta say, Stephen Curry, Golden State is having a good season. Plus, he's the only 20 PPG guy not in the game. At GSG 2311, tough call on who to take off. Steph Curry is probably more of a snub, but an argument can easily be made for Chandler or Lopez. At Jocelyn's Radio of Sports Radio 610, I'd rather see Stephen Curry because it's a guard league and I like guard play. Offensive bigs like Brook Lopez have been minimized in the high screen and roll. Rich Tyndall, I'd go with Stephen Curry just because Golden State has stunk for so long. Jesse Morris, Curry because of the position he plays and what he means to that team. Lopez doesn't rebound, and while he is blocking shots, a man of that size should be over 10 boards a game. And Daniel Shearer says, Curry for me, it doesn't matter if Lopez is scoring 18 a night, if he doesn't stand a chance on the boards to give his team additional positions. This is UTN's The Cutt. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the show, folks. We'll appreciate that from Alicia Stewart, our social media correspondent. We're going to go ahead and go to a break, but when we come back, we will give a review of the playoffs from the wild card round into the AFC and NFC championship games, and we will give our Super Bowl picks from tonight's panel. We'll see you in a few minutes right here on The Cut. Folks, welcome back to the show. I'm Craig Shelton. This is The Cut. This is the final segment of tonight's show. Dr. Kenyatta Conville joining us back on set. Richard Walker from HMW joining us back on set. Folks, follow me on Twitter, at Craig Shelton HMW. Follow me on Facebook, at Craig HMW Shelton. So you can be a part of what we do on this show. That's what it's all about. Our interaction with you, the UTN viewing audience. We want to talk sports with you on Facebook, on Twitter, and guess what we'll do? We'll bring your comments. They'll be a part of the show, a part of the show format. Nobody else is doing that. We got you. Just stay with us right here on UTN. Final segment, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about the Super Bowl. Okay. February 3rd, taking place in New Orleans in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. I like to call it the Katrina Dome remixed. That's just my little thing.
Gotcha.
I can't get it out of my head. But what I want to do here is, before we get into our picks, because I got to get you guys picks for the Harbaugh Bowl, but I want to kind of go back and kind of encapsulate what we saw with the playoffs this year. I want to get what moments were bookmarked in your mind, you know, what polarizing moments, and I'll tell you right away for me. Let's start with the wild card weekend. We saw the Texans beat Cincinnati 19-13, Green Bay 24-10 over Adrian Peterson and the Minnesota Vikings. The Ravens took care of business against Andrew Luck and the Colts. I don't think the Colts had a chance in that game. Just never did. Right. But Seattle and Washington, for me, the story around RG3 and that entire situation, I think to me was the most polarizing, maybe the most polarizing moment of the entire playoffs.
It could be.
Until Colin Kaepernick cut loose. But I'll get you guys' thoughts on it.
Yeah, in terms of Robert Griffin III, seeing the ball just by itself after the snap, he couldn't quite get his hand on it. You see him go in a different direction, and he's not able to reach for the ball. Everything went through your mind, and that was just a similar moment for me.
Yeah, a lot of things went through my mind. I had a Django moment. I'll be honest with you. Because I was really questioning. No, really, I had a Django moment. I'll go there with you. I'm not afraid to say it. Because in my mind, I had no problem with Robert Griffin taking the field. I had no problem with him taking the field. But when I saw called running plays for Robert Griffin Jr., I just could not understand what was going on.
It was ridiculous.
I couldn't understand what was going on within the Shanahan concept of how to manage the game. No issue with your star player wanting to lead his team, but you have to manage it. If you know I'm hobbled,
right?
I would be lying to you, frankly, if I didn't see it the same way.
Yeah,
I was highly upset.
I have a Django moment.
I was highly upset.
Let's move on to the second round of the playoffs, where we saw Baltimore in a very exciting overtime game, double overtime game.
Classic.
Take care of business against the Denver Broncos in Denver, in Mile High Stadium. Then we saw Colin Kaepernick cut loose for 263 rushing yards, folks. Not all-purpose yards, rushing yards. The most rushing yards by a quarterback in any type of game, whether it be preseason, regular season, or the playoffs, in NFL history.
Think about that.
Michael Vick didn't do it. Vince Young didn't do it. No one did it. We saw New England take care of business against the Texans. The Texans are not ready yet for big-time competition on the playoff level.
Right.
But maybe the most exciting game when it was all said and done was the Atlanta 30-28 victory over Seattle. And the way that game just, the whole dichotomy of that game changed in a 30-second window. Richard?
Oh, absolutely. I think the Falcons versus Seahawks game was just, that's one of those games you're going to talk to your grandkids about. Because in my opinion, I think the Atlanta Falcons are the first team ever to lose 2 playoff games in the same postseason. Yeah. They lost that game. The score might say otherwise, but they lost that game. Yeah. That's something you just can always remember.
Yeah.
Same way, I just couldn't believe that they allowed them to come from behind the way they were playing in the game, and they just shut down. And then you see the remix again the week following. They did it twice.
Yep. No doubt about that. We'll move on to the AFC and NFC championship games. Baltimore got it done over New England, 28-13, and San Francisco took care of business, dominated Atlanta, really. Atlanta comes out, scores 17 unanswered points. Then here comes San Francisco in the second quarter, score 14 unanswered points, and you got a 17-14 score. And then in your mind, you're thinking, okay, you know, San Francisco is going to take care of business here.
Right.
The moment is the stage is not too big for Kaepernick. But then Atlanta, that offense comes back and puts up another touchdown before the half, and you go to 24-14. Now you're back to 10 points, and you're thinking, okay, maybe this is just not going to happen. I'm still not going to kill Jim Harbaugh for making a quarterback change because it wasn't a game that Kaepernick was losing.
Right.
But lo and behold, all of that was just, that clock was clean, and the 49ers just stiffened up and take care of business. So when it was all said and done for me, obviously great theater with that. But I think when we talk about theater, I think the way that the Ravens took care of business against New England in the added theater of Ray Lewis, you know, this guy's going to retire after 17 years in the NFL, and Ray Lewis is not afraid to be Ray Lewis. He's not afraid to cry in during the national anthem before the game. He's not afraid to collapse on the field and just overjoyed. And that's just what that does. That's a leadership quality that you can buy into. You know what I mean? And those are the type of guys that you don't just run through brick walls for. You run through the brick wall, you rebuild it for that guy, and then you run through that son of a gun again. Richard.
I think absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. Just the amount of passion and fire and leadership that he brings to the team. Yes, it speaks for itself.
Yep. Doc?
I agree with it. It was just passionate, particularly when you look at the game and the fact that they just dominated that second half. From a defensive standpoint, I don't care what anybody said. You never would have believed that New England would have been dominated in that fashion at home, and with his leadership, with everything on the line, they get it done.
And they made New England accountable.
Right.
They made New England accountable. It's like if you're gonna play Michael. I used to love to watch Vernon Maxwell play basketball versus Michael Jordan because he made Michael accountable. Because Max would jack up a three from anywhere on the floor. And if he was having a good night, he would hit those threes from anywhere on the floor. So Jordan went for 44, but Max went for 22, which basically Jordan's 44 now was worth about 22 points. So everybody else on the board better be having a hell of a night. Because you know what kind of night the Dream had against Cartwright.
Money.
Assuming the Cartwright doesn't detach his retina like he did on the Summit floor. Talk a little bit about, Richard, the thought process and what we're about to witness in this Super Bowl game with the traditional pocket passer in Joe Flacco and the big arm, and then this new breed of pistol set quarterback, spread offense quarterback, and second-year quarterback out of Nevada, Colin Kaepernick.
I think you're going to see a very interesting dynamic to your point. First of all, you have a veteran defense. You have a very intuitive defense. The Baltimore Ravens are just probably better defensively than just about anybody in football. So that's one thing that works to their advantage. We haven't seen anybody per se stop the pistol offense, especially the way Kaepernick runs it. But I think if there's a team out there that has the ability to have enough of an impact on it where they can take control of it and manage the game, it's definitely that Ravens defense. So I'm looking forward to see that dynamic.
Doc, let me ask you. I want you to choose a Harbaugh for me. Choose Jim, choose John. Tell me which one of them will win this game. But tell me also which one over the next 3 to 5 years is likely to have the most success.
I'm going to go with John. I think John's going to get it done.
The Ravens.
With the Ravens. I think what he's done, even though Lewis is going, I think he has a GM that's going to rebuild that team. We don't give enough credit to GMs and around the NFL. We understand what a good GM will do for you.
No doubt.
So we're going to give him credit there. And with his acumen on what he's doing, you got a Flacco that is developing and getting better. I'm going to go with John.
Quickly, I'll give both of you guys about 30 seconds. Give me one thing that each one of these teams must avoid to win the Super Bowl. Richard.
Well, I think the 49ers must avoid falling behind to the Ravens because unlike the Falcons, these guys are like a python. They wrap around you and they squeeze the life out of you.
Every time you inhale,
you make a mistake, they will make you pay for it, and they will not make mistakes to allow you to get back into a game.
Doc.
Obviously, outside of turnovers, they got to control Kaepernick. They have to control Kaepernick. And he showed that he can do it in both manners. Most of the time at first was all right, Atlanta said, we'll just stop the run because of what he did the week before. Then he said, okay, no problem. I'll do it in the air.
Yep, no doubt. Before we close the segment, real quick, let me get both of you guys Super Bowl pick and give me a score, Doc.
I'm going to go with the 49ers. I don't think John is going to have a longer and come back and get it done. This game, I'm going with the 49ers.
And what score?
I'm going to go 24-21. It will be a close game.
24-21 Ravens.
No, 49ers.
49. Oh, you said Jim.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Richard.
I'm going to go in the other direction. I'm going to go Ravens. I'm going to put some more points on the board. I'm going to go 28-24 Ravens over the 49ers.
My heart is with Ray Lewis. 49ers 23, Ravens 17. Sorry, Ray. Folks, that's going to be it for tonight. I appreciate you, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill. I appreciate you, Richard Walker of HMW. I want to say thank you to Angelo Lawford of HMW, and thank you to Will Lyles of HMW. Folks, make sure that you tune in every week, Sunday night, 6 o'clock, Wednesday night, 6 o'clock. Get out there and hustle hard. Get your money. Hold on to your money. And we'll see you next week. Make sure you ask yourself, can you make the cut?